We'll hear argument next today, case 17-7505, Madison versus Alabama. Mr. Stevenson.
Mr. Chief Justice, may it please the court. It's undisputed that Vernon Madison now sits on Alabama's death row, unable to fully orient to time and place. The authority to execute someone who is not an immediate threat is an awesome power. And that power has to be utilized fairly, reliably, and humanely.
Hello everyone, my name is Antoine Coleman. Born and raised in DC. I was incarcerated at 20. Sentenced to life. DC passed a law, Second Look Act. Under IRA, I was released after 22 years. Been on 2 years. Working in the community. I love really advocacy through art. I was working at an art gallery when I first came home, resident artist for poetry. Really was wonderful after 22 years to connect with the community that way. Currently I'm with a fellowship, Reentry Education, and it's part of the whole site of the Voices for Second Chance. It's a Reentry network where now I am honored to help other returning citizens deal with a lot of the challenges that I had to deal with. And so I think the wonderful thing is being in a position of somebody that they can trust. You know what I'm saying? Like they know I come from where you come from. I ain't gonna spin you. I don't like being spun. But it's an honor, and I'm honored to be here.
And finally, after 2 hours, Ms. Parks turned to me. She said, "Now, Bryan, tell me about the Equal Justice Initiative. Tell me what you're trying to do." And I looked at Ms. Carr to see if I had permission to speak. And she nodded, and so I gave her my whole rap. I said, "Ms. Parks, we're trying to end the death penalty. We're trying to do something about racial bias. We're trying to do something about the poor. We're trying to do something about conditions of confinement." And when I finished, she looked at me. She said, She said, "That's going to make you tired." And Ms. Carr leaned forward and she put her finger in my face and she said, "That's why you've got to be brave, brave, brave."
Holds up the role of forgiveness and redemption, or at least slivers of forgiveness and redemption. In your experiences, in your work, have you seen society move toward a more restorative justice framework, or have you seen glimmers, like the movie showed us, of that?
Want to go?
Do you want me to venture in first? No, again, I'll wait to do it first.
Yeah.
I think, in a nutshell, in the last few years, DC at least can be characterized as a city that's had one step forward, 2 steps back. And glimmers is a great way to put it. We have glimmers of this change that's largely ephemeral, that's quickly retrenched as soon as there's some kind of fear-mongering around public safety. And the factors that are affecting it are much larger forces, including the pandemic. It's not a coincidence that most of the people who were recidivizing or that were committing crimes around the end of the pandemic were youth. And what's the answer from the city? It's to incarcerate them. So I think we're in a frustrating place, and we can get into some of the partisan issues, but we got issues in this city that we need to deal with from that speak to a larger issue and that we need to make progress on.
I could say something to that. I think that the city does lack compassion for individuals who have come through the criminal justice system.
When I go into poor communities and I sit down with young boys and I try to have an honest conversation with them, they'll say, "Mr. Stevenson, I know I'm going to be in prison by the time I'm 21." Because they're living in communities where 80% of the young men of color end up in jail or prison. And so they say to me, "Mr. Stevenson, I've got to go out here and get mine while I can." But a bigger question is, why was my grandfather in South Philadelphia living in the projects in his mid-80s? And that has a lot to do with this history. It has a lot to do with that era of lynching. It's why 6 million black people fled the American South in the first half of the 20th century. One of the largest mass migrations in world history. The black people in Cleveland, the black people in Chicago, the black people in Detroit, in Los Angeles, in Philadelphia, in Boston, in New York, came to these communities as refugees and exiles from terror in the American South. Those communities have never been given the opportunity to recover in the way that I think they should. And that creates conditions today that are very problematic. What's happening?
We need to advocate to get more training programs inside the institution. So when we do come on, we have some skills, we have some education, college programs, trade programs. So when we do come on, we could apply and we'd be in a position where we could offer something. Instead of we coming home doing that stuff from scratch, trying to rebuild. Like with the students, so you got guys that don't, the 8th grade, 7th grade education, they say, give me a job, give me a job doing what? Because in this city, you got to have some skills and trades. Everybody in this town got degrees. So we need help inside there. So when we do show up out here, we're able to compete and challenge the job market. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so
You see it happening. It's been happening probably for the last 50 years. We don't have the patience that we are supposed to have or need. Okay, we it's different, and we've fallen into this fog, man, of not wanting to read, not wanting to write. Okay, so to the question, we have to defeat that, man. That's tearing us apart. That's really what's tearing us apart. We don't put in the work. We don't put in the time. We don't think it's significant. Like, you're seeing people come in here today. They stayed like for 2 minutes and then they walk right back out, man. Because they just couldn't sit still. We have to defeat that.
That's bad, right?
Yeah, that's terrible.
2 minutes.
Like, and it happens in prison. If you look at the prison industrial complex, you got people in prison for 10, 20 years, not even reading, not even writing. You know what I mean? And they forgot that they stopped going to school in the 8th grade and the 7th grade, or they got locked up in the 8th grade or the 9th grade. So it's up to us to fight back on that. We got to push back on that, man. And that's one of the things that really me getting older, right? I'm getting older, like, and people reminded me now. At first I was looking so cute that wasn't reminding me. But now they reminded me that I'm getting older, man. So I want to make sure I understand what's happening and that I can be helpful. So that question is good, man. We need to keep asking that same question because the pandemic showed us that the pandemic made us hate ourselves even more, you know what I mean? And it made us realize we couldn't even live with ourselves. We couldn't even be in a house by ourselves. So, and then if you look at a lot of other things, man, that we don't have the patience and the tolerance for that we should have. And part of it's because of human capital. We not spending time with each other like we supposed to, man. We don't even acknowledge each other half the time. That's why these chairs up here empty and those chairs back there are filled up. I'm telling you, we don't even want to sit with each other half the time. So we gotta fight that. We gotta do something about that, man. I'm telling you, that's how I'm 63. I'll be 63 on Wednesday. I done seen it. I've seen that just tear us apart. You know what I mean? And it's still happening right today, even more. So we got a book club. We have a book club, man. Hardly anybody shows up for it. You know what I mean? So, oh yeah, my brother, he showed up. But anyway, I'm just saying, man, it's a lot to that question, and we should be unpacking that all the time. I'm telling you. Thank you.
And tonight I want you to join us in making the beginning of this movement, this legacy museum, this memorial for peace and justice, more than a monument, more than a statue, more than a place. We want you to help us make it a movement. We want to create something that is lasting and changing. And we believe tonight that if we believe in freedom, if we believe in love, we can create a more just society. I want to thank all of you for being with us, standing with us, fighting for us, but mostly staying with us as we try to create a better tomorrow.